Hey, what's up everybody? Got another knife review overview thing to show you. So we have here a DireWare knife. This is a knife company, brand, maker that I've been wanting to have for a long time. I've always been on their email list for when they would open their books again. And so this was a time that I got emailed and their books were open and I placed an order for the Solo. Open that right up for you. So this is the Solo model. This is my favorite model of theirs that I've always liked. Finally got one. This has the full titanium scales, front and back, frame lock, and with an inlay. And I don't believe I have a knife with a wood inlay, and they were offering that as an option. So this is Ironwood. And I just kind of like the simplicity of it. I loved this blade shape and grind. It's what I would kind of consider a nightmare type grind to it, with the stone washed flats and then the satin finish on the blade there. Definitely a great looking blade. And I've just always loved the overbuilt, oversized knives back when I first got into knives. It's been a long time since I got one in this style or type, so when I got the email and I could order it exactly the way basically I would want it, the model I'd want, and the blade finish, and then getting to pick an inlay, just went with this and kind of added a different piece to the collection. Interesting thing, so DireWare knives, obviously DireWare is the company name or the brand name, and I always was curious who the actual maker was of DireWare knives. There's other knife companies that or knife custom makers that use a brand for their knives versus their actual name. Ferrum Forge is one. Urban Tactical, I think, is another one with Mikkel Williamson. And so this one it was tough a little bit to find out who the actual maker of DireWare knives is, because on the website, on all those other guys' websites, it lists who they are, and some people's, they're just their name, Hinderer knives or Browse blades or things like that. But this one, the website didn't really have any info besides when the knives are available and then a background about the knives and the materials. So did a little Googling, obviously blade forums and blade sites and knife forums and all that kind of stuff. And Eric Tullis is the owner / maker of DireWare knives. So in case any of you were trying to figure that out, hopefully I saved you a little bit of time. So it would be cool if Eric Tullis put his name somewhere or initials or something on these knives, especially the ones that were custom made to order. But you can see here, DireWare, and we'll see if we can get this to show. There you go. So the blade is 20 CV. That was something else that interested me because I didn't have any 20 CV blades at all in my collection either. So now I have a DireWare knife, a 20 CV blade, and a knife with a wood inlay or some type of wood piece on the knife itself. Pocket clip is very beefy. Overall, obviously a beefy, big, wide knife. Something else to show you guys. It's always interesting to me for how the custom knife group companies or makers package their materials or package their knives and how you get them, especially ones that you're paying in most cases a good amount of money for, and that was the case here for this one for me. So you spend a lot on a knife, and obviously, most of that and basically all that goes into the knife to an extent, but you kind of think, okay, well, is it going to come in a nice package? Is there going to be any kind of materials or certificates with it, especially a custom made to order one that you got on the books for? Well, for DireWare knives, this is exactly how the knife came. This is the box that it came in. Basically a Craft Indestructo box. And I open the box, and inside the knife was in this netting tube material. So, picture the knife inside this, obviously to help it from getting scratched or bumped, but I don't believe there was actually even any void fill in the box. It was just, the knife was in this material, which is a good protective material, fine, but just the plain craft box. And a business card, kind of like the Metallica Black album type. Just a black card, DireWare knives, a little slightly embossed reflective material there, and the website and the email. A nice just info at email too. No certificate of date of the knife being made, or if there's actually a number to it, even if it was going to say 1 of 1. Doesn't even say the model that this one was for. So just interesting when you're spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars, or in some cases thousands or thousands of dollars on a knife, that you get a plain craft box and a generic business card. So just a thought there. I've had other custom knives that have come in a similar fashion, but I believe this is probably the blandest and least informationally packed and least specialized packaging I've ever gotten of a custom knife I've ever bought. Just something to think about or be aware of. But obviously the knife is pretty awesome. I do enjoy it. I'm glad I added it to the collection. Kind of goes back to some of the roots of when I was originally getting big, beefy, crazy knives. And I do love the crazy grind. I think in this case almost some of the knives in particular, we're getting more because of the cool handles and scales and materials there, and the blade has become sometimes part of an afterthought of it, unless it's Damascus or some type of really special piece. And I think this brings me back to, again, appreciating the knives for the blade style and grind and look to it. Just pretty awesome. So 20 CV, titanium handles, titanium pocket clip, frame lock. Give you guys a look at the lock up there. Definitely came sharp, especially this point right there. This one's actually almost sharper, more pronounced than the very tip there. Jimping at the top, little hole there. I want to give you a lot of close-up looks of it too, so you can see everything. Pretty clean blade, just that DireWare on the one side with the blade steel, which I am glad that it does list that. Pivot, just a very clean looking knife. I'll give you some views of the Ironwood. I like how they did these ends for the screws here. Torx wrench screws, but I like how these are finished and done. And then just give you a little size comparison to some of my other beefier knives that I've had over the years. Here is my Mikkel Williamson Urban Tactical CWC Camp Williamson Commander. Here is my Jake Hoback or Hoback Knives A15. So kind of give you some views there. Move that out of the way. And here is my Medford Knives Viper. Move some of these around just to give you the top and bottom looks. So actually the Mikkel Williamson still looks like it has the widest blade overall, maybe just because of how it starts off. Handle width, I think the DireWare might have it on the width of the handle. Here it is with the Hoback knives. Blade longer on the Hoback, I believe. Yep. You're going pivot to pivot. And I believe the Viper is the longest of all of them, but not as thick or not as wide with the handle, but definitely I believe the thickest. We'll do that comparison too. So here's DireWare. go. So actually the DireWare looks to be the thickest, or the thinnest, I'm sorry, in handle material of all three of these other ones. Blade stock, it's hard with the top that they've done there. Maybe about the same here at the starting point with the Hoback. Medford is usually the thickest there. Looks like McCall-Williamson's Urban-Tite a little bit thicker. So just to give you an idea in comparison on those, get these out of the way. And do a few more opening closings here. This is definitely pretty smooth for being such a big blade. You don't have to give a ton of effort to get it going either. So this one you can kind of just light switch it and it'll rotate through, and you can do the push button, my preferred method of doing knife openings. And give you a view there. Give you a view here. Pretty plain. I guess my only thought maybe I would have changed on this is maybe had them anodize it. I was thinking maybe anodizing it a gold or a bronze, but I did want the wood to really pop on it, so I think it does pop the most with it being just left as the plain titanium, polished up a bit. Give you some close-ups of the blade again, but I do always like color on my knives too, to an extent. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. I'll try to cut it off here just after the 10-minute mark here. Well, we're almost at 12, but don't go too long on it. Just wanted to give you that, and feel free to put any questions, thoughts, or comments in the section below. All right, see you guys.